Thank you. It's an honor to be here today surrounded by all of these transformative hashtags. It feels a whole lot like our office. Before I begin, I just wanted to share a fun fact with all of you. The hashtag itself was actually born on Twitter at the suggestion of one of our users, Chris Messina. It was developed as a means of organizing and driving conversation. Now it powers some of the most important transformative movements of our time. I think we can all agree it has been quite the year. Amidst economic uncertainty, a fractured political system, countless natural disasters and tragedies, women have been stepping up and stepping forward. They've been marching with their feet and also with their tweets. Over the past 6 months alone, we've seen a 50% increase in the volume of conversation around women's rights, equality, feminism, representation. So on the heels of all that, you can imagine our shock when conversations started to bubble up on Twitter around CES, the Consumer Electronics Show. They announced a slate of 6 keynote speakers to power their stage. And these speakers were all men. Where were the women? These men were certainly qualified, but something was definitely missing. CMOs, marketers, leaders in technology took to Twitter to share their distaste. Our CMO, Leslie Berlin, tweeted at them, "Hey CES, big respect for what you've built. Please do better here." And she actually did this in reference to a tweet from Brad Jakeman, who you'll hear from later. People were outraged. There are plenty of women who could take the stage. And so we decided to build a stage of our own. We brought together 6 women in tech from diverse backgrounds. Women like Linda Boff, CMO at GE, who's put out great work announcing the company's commitment to having 20,000 women in tech roles by the year 2020. Women like Kara Swisher of Recode. Women like Morgan DeBond, founder and CEO of Blavity, a content platform for millennials of color. They took to the stage and shared their story and their advice. 1 hour, 1 broadcast. We aired it live on Twitter. We expected the spot to have a few thousand views. It was a tech keynote stage. To date, over 6 million people have watched this, and a movement was born. We said then the issue was bigger than CES, bigger than tech, bigger than our industry, bigger than everyone in that room and this one. And that same weekend, conversation exploded around the world during the Golden Globes as people exclaimed, "Time's up." Over 2.6 million people used that tweet. 11.5 million said #MeToo. And so we decided this conversation was especially relevant in Hollywood as well, and decided to air Here We Are on an even bigger stage. On Hollywood's biggest night, we aired a 60-second spot during the Oscars. Here it is.
I heard a woman becomes herself the first time she speaks without permission. Then every word out her mouth a riot. Say beautiful and point to the map of your body. Say brave and wear your skin like a gown or a suit. Say hero and cast yourself in the lead role. When a girl pronounces her own name, there is glory. When a woman tells her own story, she lives forever. If this poem is the only thing that survives me, tell them this is how I happened. Tell them I built me a throne. Tell them when we discovered life on another planet, it was a woman, and she built a bridge, not a border. I heard this is how you make history. This is how you create a new world.
Thank you. So we aired this spot during the Oscars, and we're so gratified to see the impact it had on consumers, our partners, and as importantly, our employees. People were proud that not only were we standing for something, but willing to stand up for it. And it has never been more important for brands and leaders to stand up for what matters. But how do you decide? How do you decide if it's a worthwhile pursuit? Many will say, oh, do people want to hear from me? Do I have the right to play in that space? Consumers today are seeking guidance. They're craving hope, and they're eager to find deep, meaningful connections. But choosing what to engage in can be daunting. So what issues should you pick? How should you engage? How do you show up? And who is the best messenger? And I'm going to go through a few examples that may give you some guidance there. Choose the issues that are consistent with your purpose, your principles, and your product. Your purpose is your highest value. It's the reason you exist. When something flies in the face of that, good time to show up. Your principles are your non-negotiables. They underlie every decision you make and how you reason. And your product is how you keep the lights on. So when you think about a company like REI encouraging people to opt outside, health, wellness, fitness, that matters. When you think of beverage brands talking about sustainability and clean water, that matters. Their business relies on water. Our business relies on the free exchange of ideas. Twitter is about informing the world through the public conversation. And so when we hear conversation in reaction to a stage, it's a time for us to react. And in many cases, the issue will choose you. If you think of Verizon and other telco companies, they're about connection and conductivity, about individuals being able to reach each other. On the heels of countless fires ravaging California this year, Verizon put out this spot, really powerful, beautiful, moving, thanking firefighters, and sentiment afterwards was 97% positive, because it's so directly aligned with Verizon's purpose, principles, and products. And when you think about the content, it's the content that builds the connection. It's so much more powerful to articulate what you stand for instead of what you stand against. And I always urge people to stick with a tone that's positive and productive instead of angry and deconstructive. What do you stand for? How will you stand for it instead of what do you stand against? A great example of this is Airbnb. Airbnb is a business predicated entirely of individuals trusting strangers, right? If you're a host, you have to trust these people who you're letting into your home. If you're a guest, you have to trust the place you're staying. Their mission and purpose is around creating a world where everyone belongs. On the heels of immigration reform, travel bans, Airbnb put out their We Accept campaign. Xenophobia can really hurt their business. And so Airbnb really took a stance with consistent, compelling, positive, exquisite content around the theme of We Accept. And the message started at the top. Their CEO, Brian Chesky, actually goes to visit these countries that were on the list of banned locations. He puts forth messaging that is meaningful. All of this aligns with their purpose in creating a world where everyone belongs, their principles of acceptance, and also their product. This is their core to their business. And so that brings me to the point of who is the best messenger. It should start at the top. Your leaders, and all of you in this room, are the embodiment of your brand ideals. You humanize your brands. You are the conscience. So another great example is Indra Nooyi, the CEO of PepsiCo. PepsiCo has performance with purpose, purpose with performance. She shared a spot for Gatorade. It featured Serena Williams and her daughter Olympia around Sisters in Sweat. This is about keeping women in the game. Important for Gatorade, more women playing sports, more women in the game, more product being used. Also for Indra, who's one of the 27 CEOs of a Fortune 500 company who is female, encouraging women to stay in the game of business. And so this came from her, where it was credible and authentic and real. And lastly, I just want to point to a recent article that Mark Benioff shared around CEO activism that was written about in the Harvard Business Review, saying in many ways it's no longer a choice, it's a must. 65% of consumers are buying on the basis of their beliefs, and they're looking to you as leaders to stand up for what matters. And when done in a way that is credible and authentic, the impact is real for your customers, for your partners, for your employees, and for the world. Thank you.